How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. We got a big game today against the Tampa Bay Rays, one of the best teams, if not the best team in baseball right now. We got Johnny Brito on the mound. Hopefully, we can produce some offense and, steal game one of this series. We are definitely outmatched right now, overmatched, and ultimately we are getting some guys back. Hopefully Bader is okay, following that kind of scary head injury he sustained in the last game. And then, of course, Jake Bauers making a pretty big impact. So, we're hoping that some of these guys can step up and do some good stuff for us, but, it's yet to be seen. But today's episode, we want to talk about two outfield prospects and kind of update you on their performance up to this point in the minor league system, specifically Jason Dominguez and, of course, Spencer Jones. These two guys profile as potential starters in the future, and we want to give you guys the insight and the foresight of knowing what to expect from them and also how they're performing, like their developmental process, because this might be what general manager Brian Cashman is thinking. He's going out and getting those supplementary pieces in the outfield, the Benintendies of the world, the guys who can just kind of fill in and fill some gaps when need be, but he's not investing heavily at the position. We go out and get Harrison Bader in exchange for Jordan Montgomery, and that's probably the biggest investment aside from Aaron Judge's big contract, $360 million, which obviously is a big one, but Jason Dominguez and Spencer Jones could be the future there alongside Judge. And we want to give you guys the proper knowledge so that you know what to expect and what these guys are capable of. And we've talked to these guys about these two extensively in the past, but Spencer Jones is kicking some serious ass, and Jason Dominguez has a very strange minor league stat line we want to break down for you guys. But Ryan, before we dive into it, how you do today, my friend?
I'm doing great. One of the best parts about this Yankee organization, yes, there are issues on the major league field that we've documented heavily, but the farm system's certainly not lacking. They have plenty of talent, and as you mentioned, Jason Dominguez and Spencer Jones are two of their best prospects and two of their most talented prospects, not just, in comparison to the rest of the farm system, but in comparison to all of baseball, right? These guys can hit the baseball harder than most people can. They're freak athletes, and as you mentioned, they profile as long-term outfielders, if things go well with their development. When you're looking at Spencer Jones, he's someone who has to get his strikeout rate down a little bit more, but, that's something that you feel like he can work on. He's still producing despite that. He's still hitting 291, 330 on base percentage, 616 slugging percentage. He's been the leadoff hitter and the center fielder of the Hudson Valley Renegades, which is remarkably impressive considering he is a 6'6" beast of a man. Like, this is not a small dude. This guy got Aaron Judge comparisons for a reason, and that's because he is a tall guy. He set the collegiate record for max exit velocity. This is one of the most physically gifted prospects in all of baseball, and I don't use that lightly. He was one of the faster guys in his draft class in terms of sprint speeds. He's got an incredible arm as a former pitcher. He profiles long-term as a center fielder if he can stay healthy. I'm saying if he can stay healthy, not saying, he has long injury history, but because, of course, center field is a very demanding position. He is still, 6'6", 6'7". There are concerns about how long he can stay in center field. But the defensive questions there are no questions about him defensively. He's a remarkable defensive player. Left-handed as well, one of the only things you wish Volpe and Peraza were left-handed, right? That's really it. But these two guys provide left-handed switch hitting versatility in that lineup. And, at the end of the day, look, I don't want to sit here and make it seem like, a guy tearing it up in high A means he's going to tear it up at the major league level. But it's definitely an encouraging sign, especially considering it's his first full season as a professional. He's done nothing but mash in the Yankee organization. He has a career 155 WRC plus in the minor leagues. And this is across a decent sample size now, right? We have about 200 plate appearances of him hitting 318 with a 380 on base, right? 25.5% strikeout percentage. You hope that number comes down a little bit in the minor league level. But if he can continue to mash, man, I don't think it's too long before him and maybe Jason Dominguez are teammates in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and that's the thing I kind of want to hit on with Spencer Jones, as you said, has been mashing. Like, people have compared him to Aaron Judge and the lefty Aaron Judge, but when we spoke to him, he said, I don't want to be like anyone else. I want to be like myself. I want to define my own identity. I want to develop my game to be something unique and special, and he's doing just that. You kind of mentioned it. His stats in low A, Tampa, obviously 22 games, small sample size, hit 3 homers with 8 RBIs. Then you look at high A, Hudson Valley. Now, his on-base percentage only 330. I'm sure that improves. He has, I think, 6 hits in his last 3 games combined with 2 homers in that span. He has has 5 homers and 19 RBIs in 20 games. That's pretty awesome. You're looking at a player who's showcasing that power, and he's improving, and he's hitting in clutch spots. Otherwise, those RBIs wouldn't be as prevalent as they are. 19 RBIs in 20 games. He's nearly averaging an RBI a game. Like, that's pretty incredible if you think about the statistical averages of that. So that's really exciting, right? Spencer Jones is proving to be a double-A talent right now. And I'll ask you this. So let's say he gets promoted to Somerset this year, which I imagine is going to happen probably within the next 2 or 3 months, I would suggest, or I'd estimate. But if him and Jason Dominguez are in Double-A together, Dominguez theoretically should be promoted to Triple-A first. But do you think there's a possibility that both of these guys are in line to start games at some point in 2024? I think that Jason Dominguez definitely is. I think he could win that starting outfield job out of spring training next year. But do you think that Jones could be one of those like kind of Oswald Peraza type kind of elements where he comes in late in the season in 2024 next year after the August 17th or 14th service time deadline, so he doesn't accumulate any service time, and he's promoted to a full-time guy in 2025? Do you think that's kind of a probable course of events? I know the Yankees do have a couple other outfielders like Elijah Dunham and Everson Pereira who are a little bit ahead of him. But, how do you see his kind of pace going and continuing right now, and when do you think it's possible we see him at the big leagues?
Yeah, Oswald Peraza was 21 when he was in high A back in 2021. That's where he started out. And after 127 plate appearances with a 144 WRC plus, he found himself in Double-A. So, I think that Oswald Peraza comparison is perfect. Not saying that they're similar ball players at all. They're not in the slightest, right? But in terms of, age, in terms of where they're at the minor league level, Peraza was Double-A, high A, Double-A, climbed to Triple-A all in 1 year. And then in 2022, as you mentioned, took a while for him to figure it out at Triple-A, but then eventually got the call. Hopefully they don't use him the way they use Peraza, because again, I could go on forever about how they've misused Peraza. But with that being said, I do wonder how long Jason Dominguez has in Double-A, right? He's younger than Jones, right? That is important. He just turned 20 in February. And while the batting average is only 204 in his career in Double-A, including the regular and postseason, he's got a 397 OBP. He's got a 459 slugging percentage. That's an OPS of 856, right? He's on a 30 home run pace with a 55 stolen base pace in that Double-A career, right? At some point you're going to expect the batting average to climb up, right? This is not a guy who should be BABIPing, 1 something, right? That's just, he hits the ball way too hard. He's way too talented of a hitter. But once that batting average rounds into form, he's walking a ton. He's extremely selective. He's got obviously great raw power that's translating into in-game power, right? I've said this before, right? If at the end of May, early June, right, Jason Dominguez, his OPS is up through the roof, right? Let's say he has a strong month of May. How much longer are you going to keep him at Double-A? It's not like the Yankees are doing great in the outfield. It's not like they have, murderer's row out there. They're battered with injuries. Jason Dominguez had an incredible spring training. And Aaron Boone kind of hinted at, you mentioned 2024, that being a target date, right? I don't know if you remember, but in spring training, he said, when I had to send down Dominguez, I told him I don't plan on having to do this again. Not saying that Aaron Boone is certifying that Dominguez is going to be on the major league team in 2024. He still has to perform more at Double-A, and he still has to perform at Triple-A. But we saw this with Volpe. They kind of just let him skip Triple-A entirely, right? He played a couple games there, wasn't excellent, but it's turned out decently well. The Yankees have probably their best shortstop since they had prime Didi Gregorius. And at the end of the day, Dominguez is just that talented. And if the plate discipline is there, I say maybe Jones and Dominguez could be teammates. Jones can try all he wants. If Dominguez keeps hitting, they're not going to be teammates anytime soon. Or maybe they will be in 2024. But at the end of the day, these are two guys who are performing at a high level. And as you mentioned, the Yankees have to kind of start considering, like, all right, we're getting to the point where maybe we start considering moving these guys up and just forwarding their progression. You can challenge these guys. These guys are competitive. Talking to Jones, he's someone who's very much routine oriented. He's got the right mindset. Dominguez is an incredibly confident young man who knows what he's doing at the plate. And I believe these two would definitely take on any challenge of a promotion early on in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, ultimately, when you see them being promoted, Jason Dominguez already proved his worth at the spring training level. He faced off against MLB level talent, and he was confident. And I think that's kind of what it boils down to with a lot of these guys. I look at them and I say, all right, these guys are more than capable of mashing against major league talent. It's more about, like, are they confident enough to do it every day, and are they confident enough to do it in Yankee Stadium? And that's a different beast. You see players like Estevan Florial, for example, who dominates at AAA, gets to the professional league, and even against, guys that have just recently been called up from AAA or whatnot, he struggles. And, I think it's more of a mental thing at certain points. And I think, speaking to Spencer Jones, he's bleeding confidence, man. He is so confident in his abilities. And one thing I did remember that he said is, don't forget about my speed. He's one of those guys, like he's got like this brawny nature, and he's big and he's strong. But he's like, I can run. And he's like, I can steal bases too. I think he stole 10 bases in 20 games last year with AA. And then he's already stolen, 9 so far this year, or 7 rather. So 7 in 20 games. So you're seeing when he gets on base, he can steal bags for you. The guy's got a big stride, kind of like Aaron Judge. Big stride, strong, guy can move. The weight kind of just carries it with him. So that's pretty exciting. But, Spencer Jones is one of those players that I'm really excited about. Now, we know Jason Dominguez at the top of his game can be an elite player. If he reaches his potential, you're talking like a Mike Trout level talent. But again, he's got to reach that potential, which is very unlikely he ever gets to that point. But if he does, the Yankees are set up for a long time in the outfield. I'll ask you this, Ryan. What are their preferred positions? I think Spencer Jones probably, let's assume 2 years down the line. Are you throwing Aaron Judge in the center field and have Jason Dominguez playing left and Spencer Jones in right? Or do you think there's a different alignment you would recommend?
Yeah, just so based on what I heard from the Arizona Fall League, from some scouts who are down there, and just some baseball people who are down there watching him. Again, I'm a big fan of the Rates and Barrels podcast, and they were discussing Jason Dominguez's outfield play. They felt like his center field defense was lacking. When I got to see him stop by in Binghamton, he didn't look excellent in center field. He's got the tools. I'm not doubting that he has the speed and athleticism to handle it, but he might just profile better for left field. It seems to be more of a routes issue, and that's something that I think can develop with time, but Jones is a much better defensive center fielder. The only reason he wasn't a full-time center fielder in Vanderbilt was because Enrique Bradfield Jr., who is their center fielder, is one of the best, if not the best, defensive center fielder in the entire country. So, it's one of those things where, yes, I would love to see Dominguez continue to try to tackle center field, and having the versatility to play it occasionally is important. But if you ask me, let's say it's game 1 of the ALDS. If I'm putting Jason Dominguez in center field over Spencer Jones, no, I'd move Dominguez to left field. But these are 2 incredibly smart players as well, right? If you're Jason Dominguez, you can't walk the way he does without being a remarkably disciplined and a remarkably intelligent baseball player. I know that, typically, you see, Volpe obviously has a high baseball IQ, and he got that tool, and he was scouted for his baseball IQ early on, but I don't think Dominguez gets enough credit for that, right? This dude will spit on pitches, an inch below the zone. I don't know if you saw that clip in the Arizona Fall League where it's literally maybe a centimeter down from the strike zone. He challenges it. You tap your helmet to challenge it. He challenges it, gets it right. This dude knows the strike zone better than anyone else. But I just don't think he can. I don't know if center field's his position long term. I think that's more Jones' position, but it's a good problem to have, right? We're talking 2 remarkably talented outfielders. Left field is still a pretty important defensive position. We're talking about how spacious left field is in Yankee Stadium, and having those 2 together with hopefully Aaron Judge in right field would make for a remarkably great defensive outfield. Dominguez has a great arm. Jones, of course, has an excellent arm. He never revealed how hard he could throw off a mound, but we know he's got a great arm from his pitching days. But just having athletes out there, having guys with a lot of raw skills should definitely pan out well for the Yankees, right? That's what you want out there. You don't want guys who are, just, route first, not great athleticism defenders, because they're not going to age very well. Guys with great speed, guys with great physical tools, they'll age very well. When Jones can't play center field anymore, let's say he's 30, 31, 32, and the Yankees have a younger guy, he'll transition beautifully into right or left field. So, I think that's really important for this team, and having athlete first or athletic prospects like those guys is a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the youth too. I mean, the offensive contributions that they can offer could be above average, and we desperately need that, right? The Yankees don't seem to be heavily investing in the outfield, in free agency. There are options, we've discussed Cody Bellinger, O'Neill. There's some really solid players out there that could be options. But at the end of the day, it doesn't seem like Cashman's willing to force any trades. He wants to make a fair deal. He wants to find good value, but it's easier said than done. Last year, Benintendi, if he didn't get hurt, maybe this was a different situation. I definitely think, when you're looking at this team objectively, it feels like they're waiting on some of these prospects to get elevated, but we'll see what happens, guys. That's kind of your update on Jason Dominguez and Spencer Jones, how they're performing. Obviously, elite prospect talents, but we'll see how they continue to develop. We'll keep you guys updated as the season progresses. As always, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to leave a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify if you are so kind. Big game later against Tampa Bay. Hoping for the best. Hope you guys enjoy. Hopefully we get that win. And let's go Yankees. We'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.